Hey folks, let me pull up a chair and spill the tea on the wildest HOA nightmare that ever turned our sleepy little Harmony Lake estates into a full-blown suburban battlefield. Picture this: crystal clear Maple Lake sparkling under the Midwest sun, 30 cookie-cutter McMansions with 3-car garages and granite everything. And right smack in the middle, an old 1940s fishing cabin that looks like it wandered in from another decade. That's where Ryan Callahan landed 3 months ago, fresh off a messy divorce and 20 years of hauling military logistics across war zones. At 52, all he wanted was some peace, fresh coffee on his creaky dock, and the smell of pine mixing with wood smoke from his stone fireplace. No drama. Just quiet mornings watching loons glide across water, so clear you could see the bottom at 15 feet. But oh man, the second he fired up his first trout on that dock, the neighborhood dictator rolled in like a storm in designer sneakers. Debbie Hargrove, 47, blonde bob that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. Driving a white BMW X5, she washed every Sunday like it was her religion. Real estate agent by day, HOA president by divine right. She stormed across Ryan's gravel driveway, perfume hitting like overpriced chemical warfare, screaming into her phone about vagrants destroying our property values. Ryan just flipped his fish, sipped his coffee, and offered a polite, "Morning, Debbie." Her response? "Don't you morning me. Pack up this illegal camp and get out." Ryan raised an eyebrow, calm as a Marine who'd seen worse. "Ma'am, this is my property." She laughed like he'd told the funniest joke in suburbia. "I'm HOA president. I know every owner here." What she didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that while Debbie played neighborhood queen, Ryan's quiet investment company, Northern Timber Holdings, held the mortgage on her own McMansion. One missed payment, and that granite palace became his. But Ryan stayed silent, smiling like a guy who'd just been dealt the winning hand in poker. That was the beginning of the Cold War phase. Week 1, Debbie showed up on his porch with a stack of violation notices rustling like autumn leaves in her manicured claws. "Voluntary compliance," she announced, voice dripping fake sweetness. "Paint must be approved beige. Fishing gear hidden from view. Dock lighting upgraded to LED standards, or else." Ryan scanned the papers, then gently reminded her about grandfather clauses. His cabin predated the HOA by 70 years. New rules couldn't touch old uses. Time trumped bureaucracy. Debbie's smile cracked. She snapped photos of his eyesore like it was a crime scene, rhinestone phone case flashing. "We'll see about that," she hissed, heels crunching gravel as she stormed off. Neighbors started avoiding eye contact. The retired couple at the end unit, the Parkers, walked their old golden retriever past Ryan's dock without a wave. Anonymous complaints flooded the county, septic issues, noise, even environmental hazards. Ryan just documented everything: dates, photos, timestamps. He'd learned in the military that patience wasn't weakness, it was ammunition. Inside, though, the isolation stung. After his divorce blew up like a bad IED, he'd hoped this cabin would be his fresh start. Instead, he felt like the odd man out in a Stepford suburb where lawn height got measured with rulers and mailbox colors needed committee approval. The satire of it all burned. People paying premium prices for community, only to let one entitled woman turn it into a police state. Small harassments piled up. Twice daily HOA patrol cars cruising his place. Fines for cluttered dock. A bogus health department tip claiming his septic was poisoning the lake. Ryan stayed cool on the surface, but inside the anger simmered. He wasn't just fighting rules. He was fighting the idea that one Karen could weaponize standards to erase anyone who didn't fit the beige mold. He started collecting evidence quietly. Security cams rolling 24/7. Public records pulled late at night by the fireplace. Folks, you could feel the tension building like storm clouds over the lake. Ryan knew the first shots were fired. But Debbie had no clue she'd just declared war on the one guy holding her financial leash. The escalation hit like a slow-motion car crash. Debbie wasn't satisfied with notices. She wanted Ryan gone. Morning coffee on the dock turned into a spectator sport as her BMW idled at the curb, her staring daggers while he cleaned fish. "The entire lake ecosystem is at risk," she'd yell to anyone listening, clipboard in hand like she was saving the planet instead of protecting her commission checks. Ryan just handed inspectors his fresh septic certification, upgraded in 2019, cleaner than the HOA's own community plant. The county guy nodded, impressed. Then Ryan dropped a casual bomb. Hey, while we're talking environment, maybe check the HOA facility. Hasn't been inspected since 2021. Debbie's clipboard hit the gravel like a gunshot. Her face cycled through shades of rage that would have made a chameleon jealous. That night, Ryan dug deeper into public records by firelight. Turns out Debbie had funneled over 47 grand from the HOA to Debbie Hargrove Advisory Services, her own shell company, for professional consulting. Same period her brother-in-law's security firm got fat contracts without bidding. Classic self-dealing, illegal without disclosure. Ryan's military brain clicked. This wasn't just power trip. Debbie was scared. Interest rates had spiked. Families were struggling, and she'd bought way over her head. The irony? She was mailing mortgage payments every month to Northern Timber Holdings, Ryan's company, while plotting to bulldoze his cabin. He chuckled darkly into his coffee. Lady, you just declared war on your landlord. But the real gut punch came midweek when the Parkers showed up at his dock, golden retriever in tow. Ryan, Mr. Parker whispered, accent thick from years teaching high school. Debbie's pressuring folks to sell. Threatening letters, fake violations, emergency assessments that vanish from budgets. She told Mrs. Jenkins her garden gnomes were aesthetically inappropriate. $500 daily fines until they disappeared. Mrs. Parker slid him a thick folder. 15 families targeted in 6 months, all original owners. Debbie wasn't drunk on power. She was running a racket to flip properties and pocket commissions while hiding shortfalls. Ryan's cabin, the last obstacle to her empire. Emotionally, it wrecked him at first. Ryan had come here for peace after watching his marriage and career crumble. Now neighbors whispered. Kids avoided his dock like it was cursed, and he felt the weight of being the problem. But that fire lit something deeper, the same quiet resolve that moved mountains in war zones. He started smiling more, waving at Debbie's surveillance drives like she was his favorite neighbor. Inside, he was building a case brick by brick. Social satire hit hard. These folks paid top dollar for exclusivity, only to let one woman bully them over gnomes and mailbox shades. Ryan's smart comeback stayed internal for now. Standards? Sure, as long as they don't apply to the Queen's brother-in-law. Debbie doubled down with a noise complaint. Dawn fishing was disturbing the peace. She scheduled an emergency board meeting to expand jurisdiction over non-members. Ryan wasn't invited, but he showed anyway. The community center smelled of burnt coffee and fear as Debbie preached from her podium in a navy blazer that screamed, "Trust me with your retirement." Slides labeled Ryan's dock, suspected transient activity. Inappropriate fishing techniques. Folks, we'd entered the twilight zone. She pushed a $500 monthly special assessment for enhanced security. The room erupted. That's when Ryan stood in the back. Excuse me, questions about vendor selection? Debbie went white. You're not a member. He calmly read the self-dealing stats aloud. 47 grand to her company. Security contracts to family. No bidding. The Parkers backed him up like tag team pros. The crowd buzzed. But Ryan saved the big gun. Property line survey showing the fancy community dock built illegally on his easement. 5 years of free use on private land. The meeting imploded. Homeowners demanded answers. Debbie screamed threats of lawsuits. Ryan just smiled at the door. Lawsuits cost money, Debbie. Check your budget, assuming it doesn't all go to the Hargrove Family Vacation Fund. The twist hit like lightning the next morning. Ryan was sipping victory coffee when his divorce lawyer, now zoning specialist Sarah Klein, called buzzing with excitement. Ryan, that lawsuit Debbie just filed demanding demolition? Your cabin has historical protection. Built 1947, continuous use. She's trying to erase a landmark for being too historic. Sarah filed a countersuit same day. Harassment, slander, and illegal encroachment on the dock. But the real jaw-dropper came during discovery. HOA financials showed Debbie using reserve funds for personal expenses, straight-up embezzlement territory. She owed serious cash somewhere and was treating the association like her private ATM. Ryan felt the emotional shift then. The isolation melted into cold clarity. He wasn't the victim anymore. He was the guy who'd been patient while collecting the rope for her noose. Neighbors started trickling in with more stories. The Jenkinses with their gnome finds. The Hendersons threatened over backyard grills. Ryan hosted a quiet fire pit meeting by the lake. Sparks rose like tiny orange prayers while he laid out the self-dealing. The Parkers laughed until tears when they realized Debbie's outside investor talk was her own scheme. But Ryan kept the mortgage bomb hidden. Not yet. Timing was everything. Debbie escalated to vandalism. Truck tires slashed at 2 a.m., fishing gear stolen, mailbox spray painted. His cameras caught her brother-in-law's security SUV clear as day. Deputy Martinez showed up, watched the footage, and muttered, "HOA disputes bring out the crazy." Ryan stayed zen on the surface, but inside the anger burned hot. This wasn't about rules anymore. It was personal. Debbie was terrified of losing control, and that fear made her sloppy. Then came the protest. 8 reluctant neighbors marching with signs about protecting standards, while Debbie watched from her BMW like a general. Mrs. Jenkins drove by, confronted her, then handed Ryan a petition signed by 23 homeowners supporting his right to exist. The parade dissolved. Debbie's face said cornered animal. Ryan knew desperate people fought dirty. Saturday morning brought the Hail Mary bribe. Debbie showed up in her best suit, envelope thick with a $50,000 cashier's check and a settlement offer. "We've both let this get complicated," she purred. Ryan examined the check like it might explode. "Generous. What exactly does this resolve?" "Everything," she claimed. He politely declined, reminding her the annual meeting was tomorrow. Her mask slipped, raw panic flashing before the plastic smile returned. "You have no idea what you're walking into." Ryan just waved. "Looking forward to it, Debbie." 7 o'clock sharp. Emotionally, Ryan hit his peak resolve that night. Staring at the lake under stars, he felt the weight of every petty fine, every avoided glance. Every night, he'd wondered if peace was worth the fight. But the satire fueled him, a woman preaching community while embezzling from it, bullying over fishing at dawn like it threatened property values. He prepped evidence packets, recordings, projections. Allies assigned roles. The Parkers on crowd control. Mrs. Jenkins on recording. A paralegal neighbor handling docs. Tomorrow wasn't a meeting, it was Judgment Day. Sunday night, the cabin turned mission control. Documents spread like battle maps, with smoke mixing with fresh coffee and the scent of impending justice. Ryan briefed his team around the fire pit. Debbie wasn't just power-hungry. She'd run a protection racket disguised as improvements. Inflated contracts, fake emergencies, reserve funds vanishing. The mortgage revelation stayed his ace. He explained foreclosure basics simply. Missed payments trigger public notices, redemption periods, trustee sales. Debbie was 47 grand behind, covering gaps with stolen HOA cash. Every transfer documented her own prison cell. The team mapped her crimes like forensic accountants. Ryan leaned back, breathing pine air that tasted like poetic justice. Debbie thought she fought a lucky retiree. She had no clue she'd financed her destruction while paying rent to the man she tried to evict. Monday brought desperation peak. County inspector called. Someone offered him 5 grand to condemn Ryan's cabin. Bribe report filed. Then Ryan woke to his driveway, turned dump site. 2 truckloads of construction debris, hand-painted illegal dumping sign, trucks traced to Debbie's brother-in-law's firm. Cameras caught her directing the crew with coffee and donuts. Deputy Martinez arrived, shaking his head. Serious escalation. Neighbors gathered with lawn chairs, live-streaming the cleanup like community theater. Mrs. Jenkins provided lemonade commentary. The satire wrote itself, Karen catering her own felony. Debbie's final offensive hit Friday. Propaganda blitz in mailboxes, flyers calling Ryan a felon, transient magnet, criminal mastermind. Forged petition demanding emergency action. Fake calls claiming the meeting postponed. It backfired spectacularly. Curiosity pulled more homeowners in. By 6:45, the community center parking lot looked like a convention. Debbie arrived with her brother-in-law's guards, lawyer, photographer, like she planned to document triumph. Instead, she built her own stage for collapse. At exactly 7, she called order, gavel pounding. "We face an unprecedented threat." Slides painted Ryan as security crisis. She demanded emergency powers, More security, more complaints, HOA-funded legal bills. Ryan stood. Point of order. Room hushed. Debbie froze. You have no standing. Ryan walked forward calmly. Actually, I have more standing than anyone here. He projected mortgage docs on her screen. For 8 months, Debbie Hargrove has paid rent to my company while trying to evict me. Gasps rippled. You're $47,000 behind. And those payments? Covered with embezzled HOA funds. Bank records flashed, transfers from association accounts to hers to his. The room exploded. Debbie shrieked, fraud. Ryan dropped the hammer. Foreclosure papers filed that afternoon. 30 days or find new housing. Sheriff's deputy walked in on cue. Deborah Hargrove, you're under arrest for embezzlement, bribery, conspiracy. Handcuffs clicked. Ryan turned to the stunned crowd. I believe this concludes tonight's entertainment. New board elections next month. File 5, 1,000 words. 6 months later, Maple Lake still sparkled like liquid gold under the sun. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with pine, but now it carried the satisfaction of a community that remembered honest leadership. Debbie pled guilty to embezzlement and bribery, 18 months probation, full restitution, lifetime HOA ban. Lost her real estate license faster than a Vegas tourist loses cash. Her McMansion sold at auction to a young family who actually waved at neighbors. New board, led by the Parkers, brought radical transparency, monthly reports, competitive bidding, live-streamed meetings. Property values rose 12% once fees funded real improvements instead of family vacations. Ryan restructured mortgages for every struggling homeowner, cutting payments and forgiving penalties. The community dock stayed, but now with proper easement payments funding lake conservation. Ryan's cabin got a historically accurate refresh, modern plumbing without losing charm. Saturday fish cleaning lessons became tradition. Mrs. Jenkins's gnomes multiplied into a smiling army. The Hendersons started a community garden where the dump site once stood. Best of all, the Clearwater Youth Fishing Program, funded from recovered embezzled money, taught kids to cast lines and respect the lake. Marcus, the paralegal neighbor, launched a volunteer coordinator role and YouTube channel chronicling HOA justice. Romance even bloomed. The Parker's daughter Elena moved back to run conservation efforts. Ryan's morning coffee tasted sweeter, shared with someone who loved both sunrises and served justice with compound interest. Last month, they hosted the first Truth Day Festival. Fish fries, honest financial talks, and storytelling about the time the HOA president tried evicting her own landlord. Kids fished, parents learned rights. It raised money for scholarships so local kids could chase dreams without debt. The lesson, folks? Power corrupts, especially when wrapped in community standards. Document everything, know your rights, and remember financial leverage beats bullying every time. Ryan sat on his dock yesterday, Elena collecting samples nearby, humming. Loons called across water clearer than ever. Life felt right, owning your land, knowing neighbors, sharing justice. But city planners now are rezoning the lakefront for high-density development. That's another story. For now, the neighborhood breathes easier, gnomes smile, and one Karen learned the hardest lesson. Never harass the guy who quietly owns your house. If you've got your own HOA horror story, drop it below. Hit subscribe for more satisfying takedowns. Justice isn't just coming. It arrives with receipts and compound interest. Thanks for listening, folks. Stay vigilant out there.